It may be hours after the fact, but I still haven't calmed down. Imagine being the players. Imagine being the referee. Imagine being champions of the Copa del Rey. Oh wait, Kool-Aid's can't imagine that because Barcelona are campeones again for the 32nd time in their history, the most of any club. Welcome to episode 684 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Dan Hilton. I want to give a big thank you to everybody who joined me on the watch along on Big Up for this one. And don't worry, in case you missed this one today, I will be back with you on Wednesday for the big one against Inter Milan, because yes, the big games keep on coming. If you don't want to miss anything, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow along on social media, or follow me along on any of the podcast apps. Now, I'm not going to make you wait any longer. Here are the 5 headlines from Barcelona's 3-2 Copa del Rey final extra time win over Real Madrid. Headline 1 is drawing first blood. I know, believe it or not, this game was 0-0 for actually quite a bit of time in that first half. My first note for you comes in the second minute. It's Gerard Martin, who's given a ton of space on that left side, squares the ball to Ferran Torres, who has it blocked by Asensio. The lesson here is that Real Madrid were very willing to have Barcelona have Gerard Martin be the free man. You want to call it the third man run coming in behind on that overlap. Sure, whatever you want to call it. Gerard Martin was going to be the man that Real Madrid were willing to let beat them, which he wasn't able to do early, but we'll get to more about Gerard Martin later on. Barcelona were also pressing more than Madrid and playing with that high line in the early going. Real Madrid finally get to Vinny Jr. for the first time in the 6th minute to my count. On the other side, Lamine Yamal wasn't really getting much action either in the early going. For Lamine Yamal, the man who was defending him in the first 10 minutes, he goes down early. That's Ferland Mendy, who's then replaced by Fran Garcia. So a bit unfortunate, unlucky for Ancelotti. He had a plan to go with Mendy, and that has quickly changed up, though he did say in a press conference that he was going to go with Fran Garcia anyway, but that was the matchup then, Fran Garcia against Lamine Yamal, we got to see for the rest of the match. 13th minute, Gerard Martin, who I thought had a pretty good first half, and yeah, he struggled later on, but he had a pretty good first half, including just a stand-up tackle on the one sideline, and that tackle from Gerard Martin gets the ball switched, and Lamine Yamal gets his first touch on it. It's a corner, which is good stuff. And from Barcelona in the early going, what I loved was that the rest defense, I know it's a boring thing, but the rest defense was almost perfect. And that means for the first time, not the last time, we hit the tactics board. So what I'm liking from that Barcelona press, when they're starting to pin Madrid back a little bit, but we're just not really having time to get open much at all. Like, Ceballos isn't really a carrier of the ball, and Tchouaméni can't really play balls in from deep. So these are weaknesses in Ceballos and Tchouaméni's game. So when Barcelona come to press here, and it's usually Olmo on Tchouaméni, Rafinha looks to press either the center back or he goes to press Courtois. And Martin is high over here. Pedri presses Ceballos. And it's De Jong on Valverde. Okay? So there are instances here, and here's the high line. Okay. Here we go. Let me reset. We're resetting for the 5 headlines, of course. We all know that. Okay. What I liked about the Barcelona rest defense, which was superb in the first half here, is they actually allowed Bellingham to be the open man at times, where you have Barcelona marking up in a man-to-man rest defense, right? But with this kind of defense, because Tchouaméni cannot play this long ball to Rodrigo, nor can he play the diagonal over to Vinny Jr., it just really wasn't getting off. Koundé was doing a good job on him. Because neither of those passes are available, and Ceballos the same thing. Pedri was just too much on Ceballos. It was either De Jong or Pedri on Ceballos or Valverde. That meant Bellingham was the free man. But because of that high line for Barcelona that was putting so much pressure on them, and the way that Pedri and De Jong were supporting each other, so often Bellingham would be the free man here. And so Bellingham would have to drop so deep into Courtois, because Bellingham is the only guy that can deliver that ball to Rodrigo or deliver to Vinny Jr. And everything for Real Madrid was trying to come through the middle. But Barcelona were doing such a good job just collapsing everybody to the middle of the park and denying that final ball through. And when it did come through, Cubarsí or Niger Martinez were terrific in stepping to it. Martinez does not have to worry about Vasquez at times. So Martinez defensively can kind of just hug that line, not having to worry about Vasquez. You don't truly need to press him as high as you need to, because he's not necessarily going to beat you on the dribble. And then Koundé is able to come over for Vinny Jr. Valverde, at times, I thought he would be the free man, but he hasn't been. Again, I think almost defensively done a really good job on the press too. And De Jong has kind of kept Valverde in check. So I've been really happy with that rest defense from Barcelona. They know that everything for Real Madrid in that first half was coming through Bellingham. And so they were making him drop in deep to receive the ball. And then when he would go to run forward, everybody was collapsing in. And Barcelona doing, I think, a tremendous job in the first half of attacking wide and defending narrow. That is what all teams in world football want to do now. That is how you counter these possession sides with really good ball playing center backs like Barcelona have, even like Real Madrid have. Any top side in world football has really good ball playing center backs. So the way that you counteract that is you defend narrow and attack wide. And Barcelona doing better than Real Madrid at that in the first half. 16th minute, there's a counter from Barcelona. It's Rafinha to Torres, but he doesn't get enough on it. Also, maybe a handball on Valverde on the slide in, but I don't think so. I think that hand was in a natural position, trying to brace himself for the ground. 19th minute, Lamine Yamal, a shot that goes just wide. Barcelona's starting to get some chances here. 21st minute, set piece delivery from Rafinha. It's a great delivery, and Koundé gets his head on the second one of the game for him. Courtois punches it over. Still, chances for Barcelona. 23rd minute, the other way. Koundé gets a block after Madrid plays over that high line, which could have been a strategy that would work for them, but they didn't actually go to it very often today. 26th minute, Lamine Yamal tracking back and winning the ball to stop the counter. A note that in the 26th minute, Lamine Yamal was defending, because when he starts defending in extra time as well, when we get there, I want to give credit to Lamine Yamal, who played with much more maturity than the 17-year-old is supposed to do. Which, speaking of Lamine Yamal, he, Cubarsí, and Pedri, who I have in no particular order as 1, 2, and 3, and the most influential players for Barca this season, they get the 1-0, which means we're going right back to the tactics board. Here's what happens on this ball. Ball comes in. It's blocked off by Cubarsí. Gets it ahead to Pedri. And Pedri delivers this wonderful long ball out to Lamine Yamal. And so as Lamine Yamal is dancing with the ball, here comes the ball. Fran Garcia trying to step with him and almost also making this run in. Tchouamani's dropped deeper. Rudiger's dropped deeper. Now everybody's in the box. And I don't know who it was, whether it's Ceballos or was it Bellingham, but nobody dropped with Pedri. And then here comes Pedri right through the center. So once Lamine Yamal goes to make his run inside here with the ball, you got Pedri wide open at the top of the box. What I liked was Rafinha was still pushing. Torres was pushing here. Olmo was trying to push around Lamine Yamal, so he's actually over here. And Fran Garcia just couldn't keep up with Lamine Yamal. And that is Pedri. Pedri, easy as you like, aims that right into Courtois' net. So that goal, I mean, you'd have to see it again. Is it Bellingham? Is it Ceballos? But one of those defenders for midfielders for Real Madrid, while they were trying to defend, somebody didn't do their job. So there you have it. Barcelona 3. Beautiful goal from Pedri. I'd call that a golazo from the top of the box. It's a missile right into the back of the net. And Barca are up early in the game because they deserve to be early up in that game. And their performance matched the score at that point. Headline 2 is couldn't put Madrid away. Barcelona, I'm going to talk about the chances they missed here because that is the name of the game. This match could have been over at this point, but Madrid found some energy, found some life. You knew they were going to do it. 31st minute, Madrid probably could have been down to 10 here. Was this tackle by Tchouamani on Olmo red card worthy? It hits the ankle. There was some worries about Olmo. We know about his fitness already. Fortunately, he was able to play on. Okay, and Tchouamani gets out of this with just a yellow. After the goal, Madrid, not just did they have more energy, but they're also pressing Barcelona higher up the field. I don't know why they didn't start the match like this. Maybe that was a permutation that Ancelotti said, hey, if we go down, then we're going to press a little bit harder. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. 35th minute, Bellingham scores, but Madrid are offside. Bellingham was off on the pass that was played in, so Barcelona dodging a bullet there. 37th minute, it's a late tackle from Gerard Martin that earns him a yellow. After the ref played Barca advantage, Tchouamani won the ball against Olmo, but for Barcelona, Real Madrid, and the ref, this was one of those situations where there were really no winners, and both teams were going to complain afterwards. 40th minute, Pedri calls for Barcelona to slow things down and take some of the energy and some of the air out of the game. Love that leadership from Pedri, and I think this was really important for Barcelona to get to halftime up 1-0 at that point. 44th minute, it could have been a second one for Barcelona. The ball finds its way to the back post where it hits the inside part of the post. It got through everybody. Ferran Torres mistimed his jump. But the more important thing to note is Ceballos holding onto Cubarsí at the back post. It is another penalty that was missed by this referee. Again, the handball, I didn't think so. This one, There's a lot of pulling and shoving going on in the box, every single corner, every set piece, sure, but boy, oh boy, VAR definitely could have overturned this one. 45+2. Now Real Madrid gets something to complain about. It's offside on Vinny Jr., but if it wasn't offside, and he clearly was, it probably was going to be a penalty against Inigo Martinez or Chesney or Kubarzi. Take your pick of the litter. Vinny Jr. probably would have got a PK here, and who knows what happened to the game at that point. We do head into halftime with my big note being, okay, Barcelona survived to halftime, but it feels like the referee was also surviving to halftime. Roberto Benitez had the game get away from him in that first half. It worried me for the second half and beyond because Real Madrid TV, they were on the campaign. Just hours before, there was a worry that Real Madrid are going to boycott the match. Yeah, all of that. Now, Real Madrid officially came out with a statement and said, no, that's a little bit of rumor and nonsense. We're not going to do that. We are going to play it, but we're still unhappy about the referees. And I do think that Real Madrid and all of that pressure they put on the referees in the last 48 hours did weigh on him throughout this match. At halftime, Ancelotti makes a change. It's Mbappe on for Rodrigo, who I'm going to credit Gerard Martin here. Rodrigo had one of his quietest games of the season. And for those who think Gerard Martin wasn't Balde, yeah, he's not. But defensively, Rodrigo did barely anything in that first half, and it's a big credit to Gerard Martin. His defensive positioning, that means his awareness to set himself up, including that rest defense for Barcelona, was superb on the night. 46th minute, Lamine Yamal, it's a low shot that's easily handled by Courtois, but that shot reminded me that, yeah, Lamine Yamal against Fran Garcia should have been a matchup that Barcelona in the second half and beyond could go to the well over and over and over again. I wanted to see more Lamine Yamal against Fran Garcia in the second half. 49th minute, this is kind of the Chesney moment. He had to keep that ball out twice when Bellingham wins the ball off Olmo and takes it himself, gets Vinny Jr. in. But again, Chesney is there to deny twice. That's huge. And then here comes Vasquez and Ceballos, who didn't have good games at all, just kind of doing hateable things with both of them. Arda Güler and Modric. So offense for defense, down 1-0. Made sense for the subs for Ancelotti. 55th minute, this was a worry. This was a miss. Barca with a 3v2 on the counter. The ball is played too soon to Rafinha, and his shot wasn't good enough, and Yamal was also wide open on the other side. Then comes heart attack time. Vinny Jr. had it in the box, but Martin, Koundé, and Chesney all crowded him out. Not a handball to my judge either. But the bigger story here in that second half as it went along, way too many giveaways by Barcelona. They were missing their chances on one end. They were giving the ball away in their own half in a way that they weren't doing in the first half, and that was a concern. I had nothing but praise for De Jong for the first 45 minutes, but then that second half, as the match went on, he started to struggle. Maybe with fitness, he slowed down, but De Jong went from an A++ in the first half to just kind of looking average and pedestrian in the second half, as he, even Pedri and Olmo, they're having the ball taken off of their feet by, especially Bellingham, in the midfield in their own half. That cannot happen. Madrid were pressing, as I said, also much better in the second half, much more organized with Mbappe up there as opposed to Rodrigo, which usually is the inverse. But hey, Mbappe came on at halftime and he looked like the freshest player on the field, as he should have. 61st minute, it's another huge miss from Rafinha. Koundé with a sublime ball to Olmo on the back heel, and then Rafinha the free man, but he goes wide again. In the 64th minute, that's it for Olmo. On comes Fermin Lopez, which wound up being a good sub for Hansi Flick. Headline 3, the pendulum swings. Let's talk about those two Real Madrid goals now. I kind of already set the scene for you that Real Madrid were finding the game. They were playing much better. They were putting Barcelona under a lot of pressure, and so they wind up deserving, if you want to call it that, they wind up deserving their opening goal. In the 68th minute, it's a yellow for De Jong for pulling back Mbappe. Was that a red card offense? I don't think so. A, he was outside the box. B, Kubarsi was in between him and the goal. And also, he barely got any contact on him. It wasn't a true pullback. It was a goal-saving yellow, not a red. Doesn't matter, though, because Mbappe winds up with a perfect free kick. I call it as I see it. If I see something that was really good, and that's what this was from Mbappe, sometimes at that angle, they just wind up either hitting it right into the wall or you put too much power and you sky it over. But no, he hits that one perfectly to the inside of the wall, beat Chesney. Maybe Chesney should have set up his wall a bit more centrally, but he also didn't want to give up that space next to it. So I don't know. This is a really good shot from Mbappe, and there's Real Madrid on the board now, and you know what happens to the boys in white when they've got a little belief in them. The 74th minute, they missed one on a counter that they probably should have had something better from, but still Real Madrid on the front foot at that point. 77th minute, they go up 2-1 through Tchouameni with the header. He didn't really look comfortable as a deep-lying playmaker. I showed you on the tactics board with the first headline, but hey, this is what Tchouameni is brought in to do, be a big body, and he does that on the corner. This is right before Araujo, interestingly enough, right before Araujo could come into the game. And Koundé, his only real mistake of the day was here misreading the ball, and Tchouaméni got in behind him. Maybe Koundé a little bit of ball watching. Either way, Tchouaméni rose up, perfect timing. It's 2-1 Real Madrid. Headline 4, and the pendulum swings back. Because just like most El Clasicos that give us heart attacks and turn us gray, the pendulum kept on swinging with momentum. And Barcelona, oh, for you Kool-Aids who quit at that point, shame on you. I can tell you that on the watch along, I hadn't given up just yet, and I don't think you should have either. 82nd minute, Lamine Yamal on the counter against Courtois. And Lamine Yamal had the shots peppering Courtois' goal, but Courtois was able to take some of the sting off the ball and trying to take some of the sting out of the game. Didn't matter, though, because Lamine Yamal, that boy's a playmaker as much as he is just a shooter. 84th minute, the 2-2. It's from a throw-in from Madrid. And what do I always say, too? If you give up goals on your own throw-in in the opposition's half, well, you probably did something wrong. And Madrid do some big things wrong here. Barca are off to the races on the counter because Madrid easily give it away on their own throw-in. It's Lamine Yamal at midfield, and Torres makes the run. Gets inside Rudiger, miscommunication with Courtois, and Rudiger allows Torres to tap it into the goal, and we are game on. It is 2-2. 85th minute, the subs that Hansi Flick wanted to make earlier in that half when Barcelona had a lead. Now they're on with Araujo and Gabi. Hector Fort was going to see the field if Barcelona was still down and were pushing for a goal. But no, it's Araujo and Gabi to keep everything tight and clean things up and go for that win. Meanwhile, it was Vinny Jr. off for Brahim Diaz, and it's a really good time to remind you that Pau Cubarsí, who I don't think I even mentioned he and Inigo Martinez yet in this match review, they were terrific. I know there were 2 goals scored by Real Madrid, but I just talked about how those goals were scored. One was a free kick, and the other was the header that Tchouaméni put past Koundé. So, yeah, Cubarsí and Inigo Martinez, I don't know what they could have done better in this match to help keep Barcelona in it. So many interceptions, so many ball recoveries, perfect positioning on the high line, jumping to get the offside, just tremendous stuff, especially from Cubarsí, who could have easily lost the foot race a number of times to Vinny Jr., when it'd be either Fran Garcia or one of those midfielders, Bellingham as well. But Cubarsí stood his ground, and he was excellent. Hard to argue who was actually better between Cubarsí and Inigo Martinez. 94th minute, this is where I thought the game could have slipped away from Barcelona. Rudiger fouls Torres. I'll say that with full voice. Rudiger comes through Torres. It's a light touch, but there is definitely contact there. I know it's the 94th minute of a cup final, but this is a PK. And yet, nothing happens. The closer one, as far as VAR, but the closer one, not in terms of actual penalty, was in the 96th minute. It's Rafinha, a cut inside on Asensio inside the box, and it's a PK. I thought it was a pretty easy call, honestly, but the ref instead gives a yellow to Rafinha because VAR does not think it's a PK, and it's overturned. Pretty incredible there because the PK on Ferran Torres, definitely a PK. VAR doesn't even look at it. I guess maybe they did, but they didn't see enough to call the referee over to consider it. But instead, it's Rafinha. That's the one that's overturned by VAR. Oh, man, pretty incredible. The referee stuff, I don't want to do it here. Barcelona are champions in the Copa del Rey. I don't want to do it. But hey, have fun in the comments or hit me up on social media. Headline 5, Kings of the Cup. We could have done the VAR controversy and the referee and all that stuff about Los Blancos and how they carried on this week. But no, instead, we have the extra time to talk about where we obviously know Barcelona were the victors. So let's talk about how that happened. There were some huge tackles defensively by Fermin Lopez in extra time. He was the fresh man, and you could tell who had played an entire season and who started this match and who came on fit. And Fermin Lopez was ready to go, as we see with his energy. Sometimes his exuberance is a bit too much, gets him in trouble, and sometimes Fermin Lopez is there to eat, and he was tremendous in terms of his defensive acumen today. Madrid's big bodies, though, in the first half of extra time did worry me. They were able to retain the ball and just use those big bodies. And Barcelona were a bit tired and legs were tired. It's hard to kind of chip away. And those big bodies of Real Madrid were just shielding Barcelona players off the ball. That did worry me in terms of possession. 98th minute, Eric Garcia on for Pedri. I know we were worried about losing Pedri. Of course, Barcelona loses control. They lose their heads. All bad things can happen when Pedri exits the field, but Pedri had nothing left to give in that game that Eric Garcia couldn't possibly give at that point. 104th minute, Torres goes just wide. Rafinha gave it to him after good work from Fermin, and still you're feeling like, oh, Barcelona, you've got to not get the PKs here. That's where you obviously didn't want to see it with Courtois. 107th minute, Torres offside on the finish. Fermin again giving it to him. Fermin scuffed the shot seconds later. Don't remember that. Remember all the good work he did. Endrick comes on in the second extra time for Rudiger, who was limping to the finish. Rudiger also say here, he went completely ballistic. If there's a word for ballistic, Very few times have you seen a player really lose it the way he did on the bench and getting that red card near extra time. So bye-bye Rudiger. Hope he gets a ban, maybe even for the May 11th Classico. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Goulet delivers then a really dangerous ball for Bellingham, and Koundé bodies him just enough there in a second extra time. Then the 115th minute, Torres comes out for Pau Victor. Torres, very much like everyone else, was defending Torres late and pressing in that second extra time period, showing that I think whatever that fight, that ever intangible was, Ferran Torres had it just as well as Real Madrid did, and he gave every last gasp of energy he had too. Then the 116th minute, here's the winner. Was it Brahim Diaz who didn't come to the ball? Is it Modric who probably shouldn't deliver that pass and maybe he was a bit too lazy on the ground to Diaz? But Koundé, doesn't matter. That guy has legs for days. He finally got his rest. The last time out, he finally got the 90 minutes rest that he so deserved midweek against Mallorca. And he was the one who had the energy when Barcelona needed him most. He steps to the ball, steps quick to it, and blasts it low and hard past Courtois. And that is a winner. I talked a few weeks ago on the watch along if Jules Koundé, after a season like this, would be pushing into Barca's top 75 players all time. You know what you need to get in that top 75? You need moments. And Jules Koundé, this buddy is your moment. Awesome stuff from Jules Koundé. Merci beaucoup for the Frenchman. And after 118th minute offside, oh my goodness, because Gavi might have committed a PK if Real Madrid weren't offside. And then Endrick also offside. Mbappe smacking Eric in the face late. And then, as I said, the late reds for 3 different Real Madrid players. And finally, the final whistle. The treble is still alive, everybody, because Barcelona, for the 32nd time in their history, are Copa del Rey champions. Awesome game, I guess. I mean, that's what you want to see as a neutral, right? A game that is up, a game that is down. It had controversy. It had red cards. It had yellows. It had goals. It had fouls. It had so much that you would want from El Clasico. Again, I'm still out of breath. I'm still hours after the fact coming down from that. So I do appreciate everybody who joined me again on the watch along. Everybody who's watching here, please subscribe to the YouTube channel because I want as many people to see this content and be on this ride, be on this final journey with me as Barcelona have the semifinals of the Champions League on Wednesday. I know, just a few days away from the semifinals of the Champions League, and the treble is still on. So I want to thank everyone again for watching through this whole video. I know you are probably seeing tons of these headlines and watch alongs and all that stuff, but I appreciate everybody who is always with me, both in their ears and on their screens. So again, thank you so much. As always, you know what to say. Let's even add a little bit. Campeones, 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 and Forza Barca.